Hello. Okay. Sorry if I look a bit scraggly. Whatever. So today is the 28th of May 2012, and this is the TOK video that I'm doing for the final exam. Okay. So first thing I need to talk about is the nature of knowledge. And knowledge is truth about the world, and the nature of knowing is how we see that knowledge and perceive it, and what leads us to believe that knowledge is true. Um, I watched an RSA Animate video on the 21st century enlightenment, and that tells a story about how our perceptions need to shift in order to be, on how our perceptions need to shift in order to better our collective consciousness. This leads me to explain two things: knowledge and belief, and which transitions into the linking question, which is more reliable, perception or reason? Knowledge is information that is certain like a probability of 100%, whereas belief is not certain, which has a probability of less than 100%. To answer the question, which is more reliable, perception or reason, it would obviously be reason, because reason brings life to rational thinking and logic and breaks free the binds of uncertainty, whereas perception is riddled with biases, which is not trustworthy or reliable. The Persians have a saying that one who is bitten by a snake will fear string, and that's because that a bitten person's perception of anything that looks like a snake will be associated with fear and other bad feelings. And this is perfectly human, and it'd be a crime to betray your feelings and not instinctually fear anything that looks like a snake. However, we are talking about correctness, reliability, and validity, and reason is more reliable than perception, because I'm a strong believer in the phrase that everything happens for a reason. So no matter how weak the reason or how perfectly sound your logic is, there's a reason, and it heavily influences my thinking. I don't know if I answered the question. I probably did. Okay. Next unit was sense perception as a way of knowing, and this is where different senses impact different types of knowledge or something. For an example, I'll use the Iron Chef TOK thing we did, and where we were supposed to make a dish and then play around with the color or changing the names or that kind of stuff, and it impacts our thing we know or think about that certain dish. And this is also relevant to color perception. For example, I remember one of my classmates, I believe it was Johan, he did a project that involved one picture with different colored backgrounds, and that those different colors drew out different emotions, but the same picture. The third unit, sorry, I gotta move my script. The third unit is language as a way of knowing, and language greatly impacts our knowledge, as if we had no language, knowledge would be all perception, because it is hard to get across abstract and concrete details that are not expressed by everyone, such as love, hate, sadness, or joy. For example, we did a project on language, well, I did, and how it evolved over the many years. For example, English, and how those words came to be, and how some words would become extinct. Although how words become extinct is beyond me, I did find the unit interesting. And relating to this, Japanese is by far my favorite DP class this year, and it relates to this unit in how, for example, I'm going to take two alphabets, the Korean language and the Japanese language, and the Korean Hangul alphabet is interesting because it was made all at one time from the ground up by a king who wanted to promote literacy and increase literacy rates in his city or wherever. And so each character is meant to be very easy to remember and understand and read, whereas Japanese was not a written language previously when it was first not invented, but sort of came around, and it borrowed characters from Chinese, and every character has a story of how it changed, and there's a reason, there's always a reason for something, why this happened, or how this changed. And yeah. Um, Lastly, our last unit was emotion as a way of knowing and how emotion impacts your beliefs and rational thinking. So this is where I relate my hollow shell of a personal life to the unit if I ever have something like that. And okay, well, among my circle of friends, we have this. Okay, well, I'm sorry, that's a lie. There's this thing called, I think, reverse rationalization or something, and it's whenever you do something wrong, you try to defend it out of pride or habit or I don't know, out of emotion. And among my circle of friends, everything has to be logical or you're an idiot basically, which I guess is how the real world works, but I digress. Anything like I do wrong that I try to sort of reverse rationalize, it's usually out of anger or irritation. So those emotions impact how I thought about a situation. Like, let's say I made a wrong decision or something, but my anger or irritation will cause me to sort of defend my reasoning in that I am the correct one. And yeah. And vice versa. If I'm happy, I'll probably just blow things out of proportion and try to make things seem better than they are, rather than if I were upset and just try to nuke everything from orbit. That last part is in my script and it made sense while I was writing it, but does not make sense when I said it. Hopefully my mic works this time, and yeah, that is my TOK video.